So they say to me, why do you keep covering up one eye? Is it because you're Illuminati? I'm like, are you daft? If I was, do you think I'd do that on YouTube? Jumping at shadows, some of you are, really. And honestly, that whole one eye thing, it's a positive thing. Originally, in Egypt, it was a sign of good fortune. There could be an evil eye, but the eye generally, the eye of Horus, or the eye of Ra, and they are sometimes interchangeable. It was a bit of a fluid cosmology that they were running, was a positive thing. They didn't see the eye as being a passive sense that just took in light. They actually saw it as an active sense that was giving out energy into the world. So the single eye of Horus, or the eye of Ra, and sometimes you can tell whether the eye you're looking at is the right eye. Apparently that's usually, not always, it depends on the era, is the eye of Horus, and the left eye is the eye of Ra. So I knew who Horus was, the falcon. So I was like, well, who's Ra specifically? And then it all gets a bit weird and confusing, and I was like, isn't Ra Aten? It's like, well, no, Aten's just the sun disk. But he's a god. Yeah. But he's just a disk. Yeah. But he's also not a disk. And I was like, this is too confusing for me. But when I do that on thumbnails, I just do that to wind people up. Because I know that they're paranoid and they're jumping at shadows. Anyway, I'm only on here briefly. You disc, says Honeybee Rose. You disc. Well, the Egyptologists all say that the Egyptians saw the Aten as a disc, but then other Egyptologists are saying, well, because sometimes it's portrayed as concave, they probably knew it was a sphere. They might not have been so dumb as to go, well, it looks like a disc, so it's a disc. Ed says, I just listened to you mansplain the menstrual cycle. Now what are you up to? That wasn't me mansplaining the menstrual cycle. That was Danny. I didn't know anything that he was saying about that. Honeybee Rose says, that's an Egyptian insult. You are a disc. The air conditioning is extremely loud. 1 second. The sun disk is out today in Liverpool. Happy day. Look at that. Blue sky. It's flipping freezing, but at least the Aten is out in Liverpool for us today. Dragonfly Deb says, I am a desk. Good. I'm a desk, you're a desk. Hello, UG Rose. If anybody has any, I didn't offer any questions yesterday on the 2 lives that I did. If anybody has any questions, make them 1 sentence long, have them end in a sentence, and I will try and answer them for you. Sonia Roxana says, foggy in Eastern Europe. Good morning. It's cold here too, says Lucy. Oh, very nice. Helena says, hi, I've just been love bombed by a bodyguard. Did he look like Kevin Costner? Young Kevin Costner. I'm seriously distressed because I've just finished a 6-month relationship with a narcissist. Sorry, Richard. What shall I do? I've no idea, my friend. No idea what you should do, other than to offer you generic principles like, you should protect yourself and seek to live a good life. Longreach One says, is Richard live on a permanent basis now? I didn't have the opportunity to go live very much because it wasn't convenient for me. So I'm going to try and go live more frequently. But the last 2 times I went live, I just made a series of statements and then went off and I didn't actually interact with anybody. UG Rose says, hi Richard, it's flogging cold in New York. Good. You deserve that. All of New York deserves that. And specifically all New Yorkers deserve for it to be freezing cold. There's no reason for me to say that. Good morning from Oklahoma. Hello, Carrie. I'm going to piss everybody off state by state. Good morning from Oklahoma. I hope it's freezing in Oklahoma and it deserves to be cold in Oklahoma, and specifically the people who live in Oklahoma, I hope that they're cold. Me says, good morning, love. Question, please let me know things we can do for trauma in the body. Well, because your emotions are held in your body, unconsciously. You will brace and shield when you're in experiencing emotions like anxiety and fear and shame. You'll cover. Shame is cover. All of the different emotions hold in different ways in the muscles of the body. And so the key issue is to resolve the emotional flashbacks first and foremost, and then the issues that you're experiencing in the body should clear up, I hope. Tara says, good morning, Richard from Milwaukee. It is cold here too. Good, Milwaukee. I don't know where Milwaukee is on a map. I don't know if I can point to Oklahoma on a map either. There are body-based therapeutic modalities. They may help, but I would really be looking to reduce the emotional flashbacks. And when you've done that, work on your emotional literacy. And then if you go for body-based therapy, somatic therapy, you can be emotionally literate, more emotionally literate as you're going through it, and you'll get more from the therapy that way. Marty Stankowski says, it's warm in Florida. How people live in cold climates, I could not tell you. Well, we all live in a cold climate, mainly so that we don't have to suffer living in Florida. Freya says, how do we release the anger that pops up with CPTSD sometimes in a healthier way? The fight response of CPTSD is best resolved by dealing with your emotional flashbacks and developing your emotional literacy. If you're more emotionally literate, then you will naturally express your anger in healthier ways. It's the resistance to the anger that creates unhealthy expressions and possibly even damaging expressions of rage. Marty Stankowski says, oh no, you didn't. Everybody's getting it. I don't care what state you're from. I don't care what country you're from. Everybody's getting it. So when you announce yourself on here, tell me what country or state you're from. It's warm in Nerja in Spain. Where's Nerja? Where's that? Nerja. Is that Andalusia? Is that down south? I hope it's too hot for you in Nerja. And I hope it's generally just unpleasant for everybody who lives there. Ocean's Life says, do yoga. Yeah, yoga can help, for sure. Beck0909 says, Richard is sounding like a narcissist today. Lol, joke. No, I'd have to gaslight you for that. Bruce says, how do I get over my fear of letting everyone down when pursuing a lady? How do I get over my fear of letting everyone down when pursuing a lady that's already interested in me, yet has many suitors? Bruce, how would you pursuing a lady in your life, you know, that's very personal to the two of you. How would that specifically let everyone down? There's probably some context to this that I'm not aware of yet. Jaguar Dorch says, Tucson, Arizona, and I'm just effing angry. Arizona's hot all year round, right? Because it's desert. I quite like it there. Where's the place in Arizona that I like, that I've been to a few times? Huh. Oh, it's gone out of my brain. I think is it Tempe? Anyway, people tell me it's dull, but I quite like it. I like it nice and dull. On the beach in North Carolina, cold, but who cares? I'm on the beach. Just battle through, mate. That's the British way. It's like, fine, it's cold, but we shall stay on the beach. It's rainy and cold in Houston, Texas. Good, good. I hope it's freezing for you and everybody else in Houston and in all of Texas. I remember going to Texas for the first time to do a seminar, and I think I was in Houston, and I was there for 3 days. And day number one, before the seminar, I was outside by the pool, sunbathing. And then the next day, it was freezing cold. It was like winter jacket weather, and I just couldn't get my head around it. I just couldn't get my head around it. I was in a state of shock and trauma, and I insisted on talking to every Texan I met about how weird and extreme their weather was. And they were just laughing. They were like, yeah, you can get, they told me the degree range that you can get from morning to afternoon there, and I was like, that's insane. I don't know how any of you put up with that. It would drive me bonkers. Hello from Perth, West Australia. Australia is the one place I'm not going to roast today. I'm not going to give any Australians any hard time. Perth is the only place I've been to in Australia. Oh, there's 2 people from Perth here. It's the only place I've ever been. I nearly got eaten by a shark there. It's not true. I got in the sea when there was a tiger shark in the sea at Scarborough Beach. I put my foot in the water and an alarm went off. And it was, I said to some kids who were running past me, what's that sound? And they said, it's a shark alarm. And I said, do you have to leave the sea? They said, you don't have to leave the sea, but you probably should. You can swim if you want to. Okay, let's see if I can find another question here. Crystal says, how do you deal with a spouse's extreme ups and downs? Well, in the course of normal human life, there really shouldn't be long cycles of extreme ups and downs. That would be time to sort of say, okay, maybe we should get some help for this. There's actually a problem here. Everybody's going to have some difficulty. Everybody's going to have a rough patch, a month, 2 months, 3 months maybe. But anything longer than that, and I'd be saying, okay, we actually have a problem where we might need an intervention. We might need some kind of help to deal with this. And so rather than me just giving you some cheap coping strategy, I would say you need to actually see a professional. You should probably see a professional about that. Sarah Guenable says, what's the subject today? Nothing, I'm just going to let people ask questions. Mystery School says, I'm from Hollywood, Los Angeles, and my horrible attitude is proof of it. I love Hollywood. I love the disappointment of Hollywood. That's what I love about Hollywood, is you have an image in your head of what it's going to be like, and then you get there and it's really grotty and rough. I love that. Nola Jane says, have you been to the Northern Lights, Richard? I haven't. I'd love to, though. Hedvig says, I need to see a professional about living in Sweden. Interesting. Hello to Stockholm. Avatar Rose asks, how do you deal with wanting to love someone you know you can or will hurt? You know you can will hurt you. How do you deal with wanting to love someone you know who can or will hurt you? He's incapable of love and is emotionally abusive. Something's wrong with me. You're flashbacking, that's all. When you're stuck in a series of cascading, interlocking emotional flashbacks, you might not be aware of it, but when you are, it makes having emotional boundaries extremely difficult, if not impossible. When you feel that unique sense of anxiety mixed with confusion about what you should do with a person, you're probably in quite strong emotional flashbacks. Emotionally abusive people don't hold any sway over humans who have resolved their emotional flashbacks. So do the work, do it with consistency and discipline. Give it a month, work on your emotional flashbacks, reduce them, and you may find your attraction to this human entity decreasing. McAllister TV gave you an awesome rap today. What's McAllister TV and what's an awesome rap? I'd love a rap. I have to have a gluten-free one though because I'm very wheat sensitive. I get red lines under my eyes. Longreach One asks, can you talk about the type of gaslighting involving moving objects around? I'm not sure if everyone is aware of this. That's That's the original gaslighting, is changing the light levels in the gas lamps and moving objects around. So any definition of gaslighting should start there, that it's physical. It's actually moving things around, changing the environment, ambient level abuse, environmental changes, and then denying them. That's true gaslighting. It then moves into moving things around psychologically from there. Lindsay says, I haven't peeked at my ex's social media at all in 2020, trying to get to 21 days. Come on, Lindsay, you can do it. Jay Tinklebert asks, Anonymous Farm says, Kevin McAllister TV, lol. Somebody link me to that and I'll check it out. If somebody's referenced me on YouTube, I'll go over and say thank you. Can you explain processing toxic shame through emotional literacy? I could, but it would be a far better use of your time to actually process some of your toxic shame using the emotional literacy exercises and to experience it subjectively rather than to hear about it objectively secondhand and at the intellectual level, which won't help. It won't really improve your life. It won't really help you at all if I do that. So I would just give it a go. I'd sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and I'd write the word toxic shame in the middle, and then I'd just draw a mind map explaining or explicating the primary emotions, the secondary and the tertiary emotions, and see how you feel about that. What's holding the toxic shame in place? What are the thoughts and feelings holding the toxic shame in place? Once you've acknowledged that and you've given yourself the care and the time and the space to look at that, to cast your all-seeing, positive, loving, godlike eye of Horus onto the situation, that's where healing can begin, by looking at the wounds and bringing them into the light. Hello.
Hello.
Hiya.
Just here to look at the oil. That's fancy.
It's fancy. I'm in the middle of a live. But carry on. I do need better internet.
Yeah.
Do you want to be on YouTube? You're on YouTube. There we go. Let's point it at you. Give them a wave. Hi. This is Liverpool Science Park.
It's about naming.
This is the level of professionalism we operate at. It's not the Science
Manchester
Park.
Science Park.
That's right. This is Manchester Science Park.
We're not in a minute.
Yeah, no problem.
Ah, yeah, so it needs to...
You need to go past me.
Sorry.
Okay. Carry on.
Maybe you're in the production on this.
There you go. It's a ghetto level production.
Yeah.
So Edge asks, any thoughts on how to adjust your course after the mental cycle impact? Sorry, Edge, I don't understand that question. If you could rewrite it. When you say the mental cycle impact, I'm not sure what that is, mate. So if you rewrite that, I'll try and answer your question for you. What the flip's up with the title? I just wrote some gibberish when I started. Have you ever watched Bruce Lipton videos? Yep, I have. Yeah, it's interesting. Very, very interesting. It's the bit of genetics that everybody's talking about at the moment. Very interesting stuff. Levinjai asks, is writing down the only way to do emotional literacy? It's the best way. It's the best way of getting it done, for sure. One dear person at that time read my diary. Since that, I can't write down anything personal on a paper, some ideas. You could write it down, get it done, take a screenshot with your phone, and then just destroy it. And then just keep a lock on your phone. But writing it down is better. Dragonfly Deb says, do you believe telepathy can be achieved with anyone? I don't know. Or with a soulmate or twin flame. I think you're on the wrong channel, mate. I don't know anything about telepathy, sorry. Okay. Okay. Okay, so there's a few questions here that would be answered by saying, like, I know I sound like a stock record sometimes, but you really would do well to commit to doing the stop emotional flashback exercise. Do it for 30 days, do it 2 times a day for 30 days. Give yourself that time and that space to get that done. And then once you've done that, crack into the emotional literacy work, and that you'll be measuring that usually in months, 2 to 3 months of that should be helping you out, because you need to go through situations and do the emotional literacy on the situations, not quite live, but within 48 hours of it happening, for that to really set in there and help out. Do you need me to do anything?
Nah, go on.
No? Eric asks how to deal with a group of narcissists with cult-like behaviour, gaslighting that is orchestrated. The same way that you would deal with an individual. The first thing is that you've got to realise what it is that you're dealing with and to really accept it. A lot of people who have codependency issues, they stay in a cycle of not accepting what's happening. They stay in denial, and they start engaging in what Sam Vaknin calls malignant optimism. So once you've accepted what you're dealing with, and you really have an understanding of it, you then have to moderate your expectations and your behaviour in accordance with that. So if you think that you're dealing with people who are actually personality disordered, you abandon all sincere communication, because it's pointless. You can't be like, oh, listen, chaps, we need to have a conversation and talk like adults about this and work it through, because that won't work. That's not going to do anything. So there's a giving up that needs to happen. And it's a giving up of, to put it bluntly, you've got to give up hope that you're going to get fair treatment there. And then you start making your plans in accordance with that. And don't be naive. How do you react when someone's verbally attacking you? It triggers my boundaries, asked Marty. How do I react? Headbutt. Usually I follow it up with an elbow, and then it's down to you. It's totally down to you. It depends on the context. The first thing you want to be focused on is where you're up to emotionally. So a verbal attack could technically be criminal. So you want to delineate the boundaries between criminal behaviour, immoral behaviour, and you got to know it's different country by country and state by state. But somebody verbally attacking you could get them nicked. It's still classed as an assault. So you'd need to have that distinguished. If it's not something that's illegal, then it's in the realms of something that is just that you're going to have to deal with emotionally. It depends on how big and hard they are. Yeah, if they're smaller than you, then you can just smack them. This is not good psychology advice. Don't do this. Helena asks, how do you get over the sense of horror that you have when the mask falls and you realise what you're dealing with? So as I was just saying before, there is like a shock factor, and there's an acceptance to it. So you almost have to go through a grieving process where you accept what it is that you're dealing with and how bad it is. And you do have to give up. You do have to give up hope on it as well. And it can take time, especially for codependents who want to live in a fluffy world of unicorns where people aren't like that. So accepting that is probably the biggest hurdle in the healing process, is people stubbornly clinging to an old world view where the world wasn't like that. Which is why when it comes to PTSD and complex PTSD, altering the narrative that the person has and altering their worldview is essential. And the faster you can get that job done, the more quickly they'll heal. Okay. Can someone show me a link for the emotional flashback course and emotional literacy? Says Avatar Rose. If you go to SpartanLifeCoach.com, on the homepage there, a link will pop up that invites you to put in your email address. And when you join that mailing list, you'll get the Stop Emotional Flashback course for free. There is a paid for emotional literacy course. I think it's $60 at the moment. But if you want a light version of that for free, you just go to my Instagram and scroll down, and there's you can get a version of the course for free. And you can start working on it. You could get like, maybe work the light version for 7 days for free. And if you like it and you're making progress with it, then you can go and get the paid for course. Neil Clark, the website sends you to Instagram. It is not an email list anymore. No, Neil, that's not true. If you go to spartanlifecoach.com, onto the homepage, there's a pop-up box. There's a light, it's called a light box that Aweber has set up for me. And it pops up after 5 seconds of being on the homepage, and it will invite you to join the mailing list. People are asking me about my dating. I would prefer not to answer. What's a better word for soul? I don't know. What's wrong with soul? Just to say soul. Are you a psychologist? In the United Kingdom, psychologist is not a protected term. So you can say you're a psychologist, but not a clinical psychologist. So I have a degree in psychology that's recognised by the British Psychology Society, but I'm not a clinical psychologist. In America and Australia, I could not call myself a psychologist. That's why I call it life coaching. It avoids all that. Plus, it gives me the freedom to not stick to any kind of a paradigm. I used to work as a cognitive behavioural therapist for the probation service here in the UK. It was very, very restrictive. For altering the worldview and radical acceptance, says Laura. I think, all right, the best place for you to start would be just baseline philosophy. So good philosophical questions to ask yourself and maybe journal the answers to. Try it, just try journaling. What is right? What is wrong? What is good? What is evil? What is reality? What is the purpose of existence? And how should a person live? And then you're in the realms of philosophy. You're stretching into the neuroplasticity required to develop some kind of a moral philosophy, or we could say a values-based philosophy of life that is yours, that is unique, that is... B says, do you have any programs in plan at the Liverpool Science Park? I'm going to do some meetups from here and some seminars as well. Tracy Nowell says, a psychological health technician. Don't know what that is, mate. Shannon L says, do you believe in prayer? I believe that if you believe in prayer, then it will have an effect on you. Mr. X says, why are we here? I'm not sure, mate. Bobby Riggins says, life coaching is better. You can help more people without being pushed in one direction or another. It's better for me. It's better for me to just say it's life coaching, because I've seen a client today, and it's very, very common for me to coach people from within their religious paradigm, the ones that I'm familiar with. So if I have Muslim clients and Christian clients, I can coach from within a paradigm that makes sense to them. So if I'm doing psychology, it's going to be, it wouldn't be like a breach of to talk in a biblical framework. But if you did too much of that, I think eventually, you just got to be careful with your boundaries. Whereas if I'm a life coach, I can just go, oh, are you Christian? Yep. Okay. Well, this issue with your mother, this issue with your anxiety, this issue with your depression. Why don't we see what happens if you pray, if you ask for forgiveness, if you, whatever it is like that. So I like having that flexibility there that allows me to do that, which I didn't feel in the counselling and psychotherapeutic practices that I came into contact with. Caroline asks, what do you recommend for trauma bonding? I'm glad you asked, Caroline. I recommend Richard Grannon's course called Break the Trauma Bond, available now from SpartanLifeCoach.com. It's a good course. Celtic says, interesting, really, probation service. I was a prison cop in the USA. Yes, it was not a job I enjoyed. They wanted me to specialise in criminals who were criminals because they were drug addicts, and that was challenging. Okay. So if you have a question, the easiest thing would be for me. It's nice when we make things easy for Richie. Is if you make them one sentence long and just end it in a question mark. That'd be good. Lily says, do you know anything about PNR, personal non-verbal repertoire? I do not. Can narcissism be cured? Says Clifford. It's an interesting one. Full-blown NPD is extremely cure, healing, resolution, whatever you want to call it, therapy. It's therapy resistant. It's a very therapy resistant condition. Without getting into, like a 20-minute explanation of the structure of NPD, apart from anything else, it's very resistant to true external input, and very resistant to true external input, feedback from the outside world, which a therapeutic intervention is. And it is pretty much incapable of the humility and vulnerability required to build a true therapeutic relationship in which real work could be done. So I would say 95% sure no. However, if we go outside the normal boundaries of therapy into some weird cult-like setting, maybe with the use of psychedelics and a huge control of the social environment, I suspect that major changes could be made, but only by breaching their human rights. But probably, you'd have to put them in a situation where everything is so controlled that they are fully infantilized. So when a leg has been broken and it's set badly and the person is limping, I think it's fairly standard practice when you want to reset that bone, you're probably going to have to break it again. So I couldn't see a way of doing it without tears. I couldn't see a way of doing it without a degree of trauma. And it's only theoretical. Obviously, I've never done that and I wouldn't admit it here if I had, because I'd be admitting to kidnap and psychological torture. I never have done it. I couldn't be asked. Somebody else can do it. I could write down probably what I think might work, and then somebody else can do it. Anka says, can you talk about how to better recognize in a short period of time a real victim versus a perpetual self-victimizer? Yeah, sure, short period of time. A real victim, God. Well, I'm very tempted to say the way it makes you feel. I mean, a real victim won't make you feel pressured, won't make you feel anxious, won't make you feel stressed. A real victim would leave you with the impression that whilst they're hurt, they really want help. The perpetual self-victimizer is going to make you feel anxious, distressed. They will be abusive, covertly and in small ways at first, small boundary breaks. small infringements of your private space, psychological and physical, that slowly grow over time. They engage in stalkerish, boundary dissolving, bullying types of behaviour. So it's pretty easy to see. It's pretty easy to see where somebody who's a genuine victim is just traumatised and sad and wants to get better. Measure Twice says, I can say with strong confidence my mother's NPD could not be cured even in a Russian gulag or Chinese behaviour modification camp. Okay guys, they are playing with the internet here. It's to give me better internet. So I'm going to stop this live stream now and I will be on again, I think, Sunday evening. As ever, thank you very much for your time and for your attention. Potatoes of Life says, what course do you recommend for CPTSD? Go to SpartanLifeCoach.com and get the Heal the Superego course. Or just start with the free Stop Emotional Flashbacks course and just do that. Okay, folks, thank you very much. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Cheers.